Is temptation truly a trap, or does our negative outlook or our thoughts turn them into one? Temptation often leads people to death, lust, greed, and anger because it alters the spirit and bends the soul. Temptation reveals what you are attracted to, where your discipline is weak, where healing may be needed, what unconscious beliefs are driving your behavior or that. My biggest fear is lust. Welcome to Inner Thoughts between myself and I. A space where I speak with the one voice I've spent most of my life ignoring, discovering, exploring, admiring, and most of all, reprogramming. This isn't a podcast full of answers. It's a mirror and maybe a reminder that you're not the only one trying to figure it out. We'll talk about fear, identity, motivation, love, the silence between breakdown and breakthrough, and many more. I'm B. If you guys are still sticking with me, I'm glad to have you. Welcome back. Back with another thought. Hey, the thought for today is temptation. What does temptation mean? Temptation is a desire or an urge to do something that offers immediate pleasure, comfort, or reward, even though you know it may not be good for you in the long run. In other words, temptation is that inner pull towards something that feels good now and may conflict with your inner values, your goals, or your well being. Temptation reveals what you are attracted to, where your discipline is weak, where healing may be needed, what unconscious beliefs are driving your behavior or that behavior, that specific way of responding or acting. When temptation arises, two systems activate: the subconscious and the conscious. The subconscious is the emotional brain, where it's driven by memory, conditioning, or reward. For an example, when growing up, you enjoyed comfort foods where it made you feel safe and loved. So when you're stressed, you rely on those same comfort foods to bring back those same memories, those same feelings. Another example would be if you were always a people pleaser and you were praised for always accommodating people. And so when you grow up, that makes you think that that's something that you should do in order to feel validated or appreciated, seen, loved. And so that becomes embedded in your subconscious. That ends up always feeling like that's something you should do to get that same sort of praise, that same sort of reward to regulate yourself, to make you feel comfortable. But it does nothing but, in a way, condition you to be a certain way. The subconscious operates quickly and below its awareness, almost like at its lowest state, right? At its lowest consciousness, lowest vibration, lowest frequency. And we're talking about temptation, right? When you're tempted and you're confronted with such a strong feeling towards something, in that very moment, you don't even have the capacity or the mind to process what's going on in that moment, right? To process the situation in that short amount of time to even make a conscious decision. So that goes back to when you're stressed and you rely on comfort foods. When you're stressed, it blocks your way of thinking and responding to things. So you act abruptly, you act quickly to reduce that feeling, to reduce that anxiety, that pain in that moment. Then you have the conscious side of your brain, where the conscious is the executive brain, your decision maker, where it evaluates your inner values, risk, and your identity, right? How does this align with my inner values, my goals, and my well being? And so it needs to know that if I make a decision, is it going to lead to consequences down the road, right? The mind is always trying to figure out what are the best choices to protect you. And that's where the subconscious comes in. The subconscious evaluates through the conscious what is the best answer in order for you to make or respond wisely through the conscious, which is the physical realm. So this is why the conscious operates slower but with perspective, because it's logical, it's analytical, and it normally is a overthinker because it's trying to assess the situation to protect you. That's not to say that that you will make the right decision or not, because it's based on what your inner values, your goals, and your well-being, right? What state of place or mind or state you are in at the time of those tempting situations. Let's go a little deeper. Is temptation truly a trap, or does our negative outlook or our thoughts turn them into one? Yes, partially. I think temptation through the lens of others is viewed as proof of weakness, that something is evil inside of you, or a moral failure for just feeling it, even though it's natural. I often think that when someone has a negative outlook or is quick to judge something that is natural and a part of our reality with or without direct experience, typically stems from a mix of cultural, religious, personal upbringing, past experiences, internal beliefs, deeper insecurities, or societal expectations makes us turn it into a trap. Now, me, on the other hand, I personally think that temptation feels like a trap, even though it's really a test. I think at times it feels like an addiction, like the never ending continuous high that you never truly reach, where our cravings become our desires and our desires become our thoughts. Quietly drains and harms the spirit while convincing ourselves that it's good for the soul. It satisfies us right here, right now. You know it's temporary. And all it's gonna do is leave you wanting more of it every single time. Addiction often leads people to death, lust, greed, and anger because it alters the spirit and bends the soul. I think that when we talk about temptation, are you willing to sell your soul just for a temporary feeling, a temporary pleasure, a temporary satisfaction? Things that are short term, things that won't last forever. It's going to eventually break you or cause harm or end in death. Do I personally struggle with temptation? I think so. I definitely think so. I think we all do. I think everyone faces some sort of temptation, or anyone can fall short of temptation. Temptation has a deceptive nature and it makes it hard to resist at times. Temptation exploits your weakness, misrepresents the truth, comes with a hidden agenda, short term satisfaction, and it appears desirable without you properly assessing the situation. So it can make you think that it's okay to do, especially if this is something familiar where you're unable, right? You're not strong enough to decide whether or not you should do this or not. Or maybe it's due to lack of discipline. Maybe you don't know who you are. Maybe that desire feels so strong, there's no way out of this, right? You feel inclined to do it. And if you don't, you feel that you're missing out, that you're going to regret this down the line if you don't do it. But it ends up being the opposite anyway. It ends up being exactly what you thought wasn't going to happen, and it happens. My biggest fear is lust. And it's triggered around certain people or auras, or when I'm alone deep in my thoughts. Parts of me wants to be tempted, stripped of my innocence, but the other parts of me rather yield to it and resist and remember why avoiding temptation is so important. Ability to resist temptation empowers you to be able to make better choices. When you're disciplined and mature enough to take a step back and assess the situation, you begin to ask yourself, does this align with my values and my goals? I don't think being tempted is a sin. I just think that it's a test to cultivate, forge, and build our character to pursue a righteous path or the righteous path. Look at it this way: if you see temptation as a signal rather than a threat, or a teacher instead of an enemy, then the trap, what we call temptation, weakens. Temptation is simply a desire that feels strong. You shouldn't feel frantic. It's meant to strengthen your character. It's to help you to avoid unconsciously walking through life and being irrational. If it's easy for you to sell your soul, then there's not really a lesson to gain out of it. What healthy temptation looks like is connected to growth, connection, or nourishment, discomfort, impulse, neglect, or loneliness. Temptation should feel safe and that you know that the decision that you're about to make, you trust that this won't lead you down the wrong path, the wrong situation, or put you in the wrong situation. Know that it doesn't align with your morals, your values. If it doesn't prioritize your safety, your well-being, if this doesn't contribute to your accomplishments, your achievements, if all it does is set you back, if all it does is harm you, if all it does is bring negativity into your life, if all it does is make you angry, then don't do it. If you know that things are going to go wrong, if you know that this might bite you in the ass later down the road, don't do it. Desire is a feeling, but that feeling should never become a craving to where it becomes an addiction. It becomes your whole life. It becomes something else. You become something else. It alters your spirit. It bends your soul. And then you no longer know who you are. You can't even look in the mirror. You can't even sleep at night. You can't even attract abundance. Here are ways to increase your ability to resist temptation that helps you to build inner strength, discipline, and self awareness. Number one, practice delayed gratification. Wait about 10 to 20 minutes before acting. Urges normally weaken over time. Any decision that I am not sure of, any decision that is going to bring discomfort or I don't feel good about, I at least give myself a day or time to make a decision. Even if it's a couple of minutes, but for me personally, it may work for you if all you need is 20 minutes. But if big decisions that is going to affect my well-being, that is going to intervene with my goals, that is going to go against my core values, I need time to assess the situation, to process before I make a conscious decision. Two, develop emotional regulation. Many temptation stems from stress, boredom, discomfort. Learning to sit with your feelings builds resilience. Three, strengthen your self-awareness. You ever notice every time you pause, notice, and choose intentionally in the middle of the act, you stop reacting automatically? This reduces the urge power and builds confidence in your ability to trust and guide yourself alone and around others. Surround yourself around aligned people. Now, let's be clear. Align means where you see your future, what goals, what values, the things that you aspire to be, the things that you have interest in, the things that you have desire. We're not aspiring to be anybody. So your circle has to align with who you are and who you are trying to become. Not the old version of yourself and not some funky version of yourself. I'm not saying that if I am a loser or I have shitty habits, that I should go and attract people with shitty habits. No. If you want better, then you should be trying to align with other people that are better than you or just like you, that are on the same level, same page as you, but particularly better than you. Your environment or your community can either support you or sabotage you, especially if you are a disciplined person. If you are grinding or focused on things that are going to set you up for success, or if you live your life in a certain manner. So be careful of your environment and your community because they can either support or sabotage you. Number 5, build small daily disciplines. Each small act of discipline strengthens the muscle of self-control, replacing it with healthier actions like exercising, breath work, listening to music, reconnecting to purpose, and creativity. Well, these are my tools. I hope that these tools or strategies give you perspective on how valuing your body, your mind, your life, your career, your purpose can be either beneficial to you long term wise, or it can be counterintuitive where it goes against you, right? It sabotages you. And I want you to always think or know that the way you carry yourself, the way you uphold yourself speaks volumes, right? You should be judgmental when it comes to self and who you surround yourself around. And I don't mean look down on people. What I mean is you having authority over your life. So that demands a certain level of people in it. And so it should matter who you allow access to you or in your life. If it goes against your inner core values, your well-being, and your goals, then that temptation, that desire shouldn't even exist in your life or around you. Because you can look down the line, you can look years down the line and haven't really achieved much, haven't really done much improvement, self-improvement, development, right? You're really not a great example to your kids. You really got bad habits, right? You eat like shit. You don't value your temple. Be a person of substance where you value yourself enough to not settle, accept less, or to be a people pleaser where you have to over accommodate others and show up for others outside of yourself, where it puts you in a bad position to make wrong decisions in your life. On that note, I hope that today's thought for today was something special for you. I hope it gave you new perspective. I hope that you are applying anything that you feel is monumental to you, is receptive or resonating or informative. And I hope it's something that you can also share with someone else. And that temptation doesn't have to control us if we are conscious, disciplined, and intentional behind our life. I'm going to end with a quote of the day. Of course, I got to read this one. Resisting temptation isn't about denying desire. It's about honoring the spirit over the moment. Temptation is natural, but don't let that moment cost you your whole life. In the long term, right now, or down the line, whenever. It's your girl B.